With the cables connected, it's very similar to the 48S configuration. We have the 2 cables hooked up to the first pack, and we have the 2 cables hooked up to the third pack, and no cables hooked up to the second pack. Now on this third pad, this really long cable, I've just put an insulator over it. You could put tape on it or whatever. I've just put a bag and a zip tie. The reason we're doing that is 1, it's a long cable. You don't want to short it out to here. But 2, during the install process, we're going to be getting really close to this terminal here, and you don't want to short it out. So just kind of a safety. Let me move those out of the way, and we'll look at the junction board. The modifications on the junction board are identical. Oh, we have this other cable too. It's the exact cable we installed in the 48S. We'll put it on later. For now, just set it aside. The junction board setup is identical. So just like before, this is not a complete junction board. Specifically, the wire coming out here going to the HVDC, the DC-DC converter is missing. We've removed, as I mentioned before, we've removed the bus bar that goes through that guy. It's just 2 Phillips screws to get this out of the way so you can remove that. We've removed the bus bar that goes from the switch to the battery there by default, and we've removed this bus bar that goes down like that. So those all come out of the way. Again, same on the 48S, we widened the junction board here so that our cables will fit through. And we've also widened this guy as much as possible. This one's a little bit harder to widen. I unscrewed this screw to do that. So with the pack, it's the same again as the 48. Most of this is the same. This is bay 1, bay 2, bay 3. Battery 1 goes here, battery 2 goes here, battery 3 goes here. So the first thing we're going to do is identical to 48. We're going to install battery 1. So to do that, same as before, we're going to slide battery 1 through here. The connector should be pointing up, and I'm going to grab cable in there. And just like before, I'm going to put the switch connector in first. This comes through. Since this is the first connector, same as before, there's nothing you can short out at this point. So you can be as dangerous as you want here, although you should practice general safety advice. So we're going to pop this up so we can look at the junction board. This is identical to before. We're going to connect the switch here like that. And just like before, I'm going to turn this around, makes it a little bit easier to access it. Okay. So we've got that guy hooked up, and now we need to make sure the battery is flush where it's going to be installed ultimately. And we're going to slide our positive up through. Again, there's nothing at this point that this cable can touch that will short out, so you don't have to be that careful. And we're going to slide through here, get that battery current sensor, keep sliding up. And again, this is identical to before. We need to get all 3 of these wires in. One of the wires was hooked up to the bus bar, and the other one was previously here already. But now all 3 of them will live here. So they can just be happy wires like that. Make sure that's real tight, and make sure you don't strip that out. You need to push down pretty hard. Again, this is why you want very flexible cable, because that's a nice 90 with a 90. Okay, so battery 1 is installed. Next we're going to do battery 3, and battery 3 has this really long cable, and we're going to slide battery 3 through here like that. Come over this side, grab our cable. Oops, I went through one of the holes. Okay. And we're going to pull it a little bit too far that way so that we can install battery 2. Battery 2, again, the connector points up. The connector always points up, and then the main terminal there is going to point down. So we're going to slide this guy in, and we're going to over slide it in so that we can connect this battery. So we'll come in here and connect that up. And again, I'm not putting the bolts on just in this video. And we're going to now slide this one too far. Actually, we're going to leave that one where it is for now. And we're going to push battery 3 into its final install location, like that. And we're going to, we've hooked 3 to 2, and we're going to move 3 to position, and we're going to weave the minus all the way through the HVDC. Now on the 42S configuration, you don't need to drill these 3 holes because this 12S pack lets you access the holes on both sides. So that's also nice because the fan shroud's not going to get in the way. What we're going to do is we're going to take this cable with the insulated cover on it. We're going to stick it through the bottom hole here. And again, this is why you want really flexible cable, because we now need to kink this cable 90 degrees like that, because otherwise you're going to run into that fan shroud. So kink that up, and then we're going to come, probably couldn't see that. I can't turn it up right now, unfortunately. Let me, you're basically getting through the hole and you're having to kink that cable so it's not sticking out. I'm going to take this. Now you need to be very, very careful here, because I can't lift this up on the junction board, unfortunately. This is going to go through the bottom rightmost hole here, and this connector here, which is covered, you got the orange lid on it. You don't want to touch this to that. That's bad news. It's dead short. I slide that through there. And at this point, we're going to take this off. We're through the part that is concerning to be through. Now, just as before, at this point, we've hooked up packs 2 and 3 together, but nothing has gone from pack 1 to the junction board. So you can touch this anywhere right now, and you're not going to have any problems. So just keep that in mind, that it doesn't matter if this touches things right now, because we're completely isolated from pack 1. So we're going to stick through the same hole and come out. And we need to actually go underneath. I'll tell you what, I'm going to pick this up. I think it's a bit easier to see. Okay, so we need to go underneath our pre-charge wire, and then as we continue to slide up, we need to go underneath this bus bar, which again, you can touch the bus bar right now. It's all safe. There's nothing touching there. And we're going to just keep on going. Sometimes I find that you can put this wire between this pre-charge relay. So if you take this connector off, which for some reason is being difficult on film, I've never had a problem with it. You need to push, there's a tab here you need to push on. So weaving that through there is a nice way to do that. And then we just need to kind of pull up the slack in our system. And again, here's why we have flexible cable. We need to get the end of this guy out so that we can put a nice 90-degree bend. I think the board slid a little bit here. This is also an identical connection here. We're going onto this screw right here. It's our negative. And again, there's nothing you can touch right now that's going to electrocute you as long as the last cable is not installed. That's why we don't install it till the very end, because packs 2 and 3 are completely isolated from pack 1 and the junction board. This is the first thing we're hooking up to it out of packs 2 and 3. So we're going to hop in here, twist this guy a bit, down like that. Screw this screw in. It's hard to do this on film. There we go. So there's our negative. Just like before, you want to push down on that bus bar so that it doesn't bend. And you need to make that tight again, or we'll be running 100 amps through that. So we've now hooked up to minus. So what we need to do now is we need to slide this connection between 2 and 3 here is a little bit long, and what that allows us to do is push these packs out just a bit so that you can gain access to this guy right here. But we want to keep this closed for now because we don't want to be completing that circuit prematurely. So this is identical. We're going to be hooking up to this fuse, and I'll show that in a second. But for now, again, as before, this needs to be, you have the one lead that we did that's right here, and there's a second one, this one, that needs to go closer, like inside the junction board. And let me get it through. Here, again, just as before, this can touch anywhere on pack 1. There's no problems there. I'm touching it on pack 1 because ultimately that's what we're connecting it to anyway. But we don't want it to be able to touch pack 2 just yet. Just kind of leave it in there for now. Make sure the lid on pack 2 is cornered. And we're going to hook the fuse up just like we did before in the 48S configuration, which is like that. And we'll tighten this with the wrench. Should be tighter than that, but in this video, whatever. And kind of just clean that up. Notice I was saying earlier, you want this one to be inside, otherwise the cable's going to be too short. So this should be on the right side, and this one should be on the left side. Okay, we'll set this pack back down. And the last thing we're going to do, just like before, is hook up our 2 negative here. Like that. We'll of course put our bolt on it. And again, like before, I had a hard time closing this last cover just because the way the cable is. We don't need it, so you'll have your nut on there. And the final position for this pack is like that. And if you've done this correctly, then when you flip the switch, you should get somewhere around 130 volts, 40 volts, or it depends on how much your batteries are charged. So what we'll do is we'll flip our switch to on. Nothing blew up. It's always a good thing. And we're going to go to the contactor, the bottom side of the relay, and negative there, and there's our 150 volts. So that's good. We'll flip the switch back off like that. And the last thing we need to do is install our end covers. Again, as I said before, for the 48S, this is just a prototype end cover. The finished one will be metal. The first one attaches here, screws in. We've got some M8 by 1.25s that go in there. The second one, I mean, this is identical basically. There's one difference. Let's see. The second one goes like that, and we'll screw into these M6 studs as well. And then the third one goes like that. So we get to reuse the same plate everywhere, which is pretty neat. But yeah, that's it. That's the 42S install. Standard caveats as before, you could definitely electrocute yourself. Read that label. Basically, you will be died, dead, or killed, whatever it is there. You will be killed or hurt. So do this at your own risk.